Welcome back. Step number one, how to build a solid structure and master your timeline presentation. I'm going to use my whiteboard. If you have a success journal, get your journal out. This is the time. What we want to start doing is simply getting the habit of drawing a simple horizontal line. Do it, please. And then add two short vertical lines in the beginning and at the end. We call this your TLP, your timeline presentation. Very simple. Now you want to divide this to three chunks. Here's one chunk, here's the other chunk. And as you can see, the first chunk and the last chunk are smaller than the middle chunk. Now let's put some names here. Now, if you remember, we said if you want to become an influencer, you need to have a vision. You want to be clear and have a compelling vision that pulls you towards the success that you want to go. So here's a simple timeline presentation. And the first thing you want to do is you want to have something called your ID, that stands for your identification. Your audience always want to know few things about you. When you are in front of a group of people, whether you are in a boardroom, whether you are on stage in a university, or you're speaking at a mega event in front of thousands of people, it doesn't really matter. What they want to know are a couple of things about you. And number one is, who are you actually? So this is a question that you need to answer. And who you are is not just who you are as your job or your position, who you are as a person, your character. That's what they want to know. And then the second question they have is, why are you here in front of us? And why should we listen to you? And the last piece is, what gives you the right to tell us what you are about to tell us in the next few minutes or few hours, depending on how long is this timeline. So now, the other thing that you need to know is, before you start, we have something called the before your presentation. You need to have a checklist. At your presentation, you have a checklist, and after your presentation, you have a checklist. So simply, since I was a pilot in aviation, everything is about checklist. Before you take off, after you take off, or your cruise checklist, and then before you land, or after you land checklist. So here are the three things that we gotta answer in your identification. I'm gonna ask you a few questions once I share with you the whole concept of your structure. Now, most people have difficult time here because they haven't been trained to talk about themselves. So they kind of hesitate. You don't want to do that. Your audience is very interested to know who you are. The second piece is the easy one, which is your main content. Your main content is the sweet spot for you that you love talking about, your knowledge, your wisdom, whatever it is that you want to share, which is usually simply few different bullet points depending on, again, how much time you have. So you want to share your content with your audience. And the last piece is also extremely important for you is, for here, let's call it the R, stand for results that you're after, or you can call it your sales close. Whatever you are selling, this is the time that you want to be clear about that. Now, it's very important for you to have a clear outcome about what you want to achieve here. So let's say I always focus on at least 5 different things that it's usually the same thing, but it's always up to you. You can change your outcomes and the results you want. One of the results that you want is you want your audience to have fun. And hopefully you want to have fun as well, because there's nothing worse than going and attending a program or a training program or a seminar that it's boring. You don't want that. So you want to have fun. You want your audience to have fun. The second thing that you want to do is you want to engage, right? You want to engage and you want to connect with people. So you want to connect with your audience. So it's extremely important. Again, throughout these lessons, you're going to learn some of the tools and strategies that I can share with you, how you can stay connected with your audience all the way. The other thing is you want to add value. You want to either teach something, a guideline, a principle, a concept, initiative, a product or service that you have that's a massive value add to your audience. That's extremely important. And the other thing is, do you want your audience, after they listen to you, to take some sort of action? If that's the case, so taking action is important for you. So you want to be clear about what kind of action or call to action. And then I put this at the last, but it's extremely important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I give it the $7 marks. So if you ever decide to become a millionaire speaker or earn $1 million a year from speaking, there are so many ways of doing that. One of those ways is you actually become a professional speaker and you charge a ton of money for every single speaking engagement that you have. The other thing is you sell a product or service that will lead you to $1 million a year. The other way is you sell somebody else's product or service. But why did I put this at the end is because for a lot of people, money is not their main motivation. So I put it last, but it's equally important to having fun, equally important to staying connected and engaged with your audience, equally important to add massive value and then ask your audience for action. So money is an issue, emotional issue for a lot of us, and we tend to avoid talking about money. Extremely important in your timeline presentation and the results that you want to talk about money and be clear about every presentation is going to make you some money. Sometimes right at the end of your presentation, you can make some sales and then you can calculate, see how much money you're going to make, or sometimes it's going to happen after that. But if you stay focused and ask yourself the question of how much money do I want to make from each presentation, and in fact, you put a price on each of your presentation, you're going to deliver differently. Now, let me ask you a couple of questions about this timeline. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about this. Then I'll give you answers also. And then later on, you can use these in your assessment to see how well you are listening. Question number one, what would be a good strategy that you could use in this chunk, in your first chunk of your identification, and so you can get comfortable to talk about yourself? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. All right, great. Time's up. So there are so many ways to do this. One of the easiest way to do this is first off, you think about several different scenarios. One scenario would be if your audience already know you. If they know you, so your question is, what am I going to say? Remember, what gives you the right usually is through two things. What you have studied in life and what you have experienced. So through study and experience, that can make you comfortable. Whatever you have studied in life, if you are talking about public speaking, for example, and if you have studied it, you can talk about that. I've studied this, for 20 years in my life. I've been teaching it, and what you've experienced also is important. If you are a PhD in something, you can talk about that. Whatever you've studied in life, and whatever you've experienced, when you talk about that legitimately, people will be more interested to listen to you and hear you talk. And it's one of the best ways to do this also through personal stories. You can share some of the stories because, again, remember, who you are is not just based on your job. Who you are is you could talk about you being a father or a mother or a brother or a sister or a son or a daughter. You could talk about being a leader. You could talk about being an employee. A story that can relate to people that they go, I like you because here is a place that you need to create what I call a me too. A me too is I have something in common with you or I want to be like you. Question number two, why is it important for your audience to get to know you better? So the reason that's important for your audience to get to know you here is because you're on a journey and you want to stay connected with them. You got to build rapport with them, who you are as a human, as a person, as a character. You need to gain trust. You need to be likable. They need to like you. You need to like them. So there are so many ways to do this. And one of the best ways to do this is, again, throughout your rapport building in the next few sessions, you're going to learn how to ask empowering questions and how to get people to raise their hands. And who you are is bringing more integrity, more connection. And it's extremely important for you to also be clear and tell them why you're here in front of them, why you decided to choose to talk about this topic, and what gives you the right. So this why part is also extremely important. Question number 3. How can you build a connection between the first chunk, your identification, and the last chunk, the results that you want, so you can get the benefit of if you have a product or service that you want to sell, if you have an initiative, you want to make sure that people take action. Okay, so let's continue. One of the best ways you can do this is to think about a product or service that you used personally that helped you and made your life better, and use that as an example. Let's say if you bought a car, that car helped you and made your life easier, then you can talk about the features and benefits of that car and how it made your life easier. If you went to a training program, that training program gave you the results that you wanted or way better results that you were expecting, you can talk about that. So talking about personal story is always interesting to people, and they want to hear more of you and what you got out of that experience. Question number 4. When would be the best time to ask your audience questions? Is it in the beginning? Is it during your main content sharing? Or is it at the end? It's actually through the whole scenario, through the whole 3-step process of your opening, your main content, and your call to action, the results. So in the beginning, depending on who your audience is, if you have done your study and see who they are, for example, if they're a group of students and you can study their needs and their desires and their dreams, and one of the things they want is they are looking for a great job opportunity when they come out of the university. So you can ask them a relevant question. How many of you would love to have a successful job interview? And that's a question that can connect you with them. Then when you finish this and you literally jump to your main content, as you're teaching during this course, you're going to learn how to stay connected by teaching one content, asking a question, teaching one content, asking a question. How many of you would love to be a successful presenter? Can I see your hands? So if you're teaching presentation, if you're teaching leadership, how many of you consider yourself already a good leader, but you want to step up and become a great leader? Can I see your hands? So this is the way that you can do that as you are sharing your content. And then you come to the end of the program and you can ask several questions that you've designed them in the beginning with a great structure. So one of those would be, how many of you learned something new today? Can I see your hands? That's great. Let's go to the last question. Question number 5. Who would be the right audience or the ideal audience for you? This is extremely important for you. When you speak in front of the right audience, you have a lot of great things to make happen. On the other hand, if you speak in front of a group of people that they don't know you, or they're being forced to be in a box so you can go in front of them and deliver your talk, you are going to have a tough time. I'm speaking from experience. I've been speaking in different companies, and sometimes the employees of those companies, they have been kind of forced to go to a session, a training session that they were not interested. Like, for example, if you are teaching sales and you have a sales training to a group of people that they think I'm not a salesperson, they're not interested in your talk. If they have the idea of, I don't like selling, I'm not a salesperson, and so they're actually against that and they are not connected with you, and it's a lot of work for you. So you want to make sure to study your audience and make sure that they're aligned with what you're teaching them. And so this is extremely important for you. I'm really excited. Take this simple assessment test that you have, and I'm sure it's not rocket science. You're going to succeed. This is step 1, so we don't want to give you so much heavy stuff. This is not rocket science. Hopefully you learned something here. This is your structure in your presentation, and make sure to get the habit of writing this down. Don't do it in your head. If you want to be a master in anything in life, remember life mastery has three different um, chunks in it. You know, if you learn something in your brain and you go, I know, this is your cognitive learning, that I know, and that means you have some information. That's your intellectual property. But if you decide to know how to use it, that's your emotional mastery. Now you know that you know. But if you don't actually use it, which is your physical mastery, which means getting the habit of drawing it and then writing the pieces in there and then practicing it, then you're becoming a physically a master of whatever you're going to learn. I'm excited for you. So we're going to go to step number 2, how to have a strategy to actually succeed in this every time you do a presentation. See you soon.